What colour would you say this apple is? Chances are, if you're an English speaker, you'd say green. It's green here, and here, and here. But what about now? Is this the same colour to you? In many languages around the world, the word for blue and green is the same. Just as this is all blue to me, Goloboy and Sinyi to a Russian speaker. But we all see the same thing, right? Some people say that languages, minus a few differences, are all inherently the same. We all speak a language, that's what makes us human. There is some genetic factor that distinguishes humans from other animals, and that it is language specific. This is the universal grammar theory, an idea that all languages all share a basic common ground that we are all hardwired to understand. This is something that linguist Noam Chomsky proposed in his 1965 report, Aspects of the Theory of Syntax. But some people think these differences in languages matter, that an Englishman, a Russian and a Vietnamese person are all seeing this apple a little bit differently. Our thoughts are shaped by our native language, and that speakers of different languages therefore think differently. This is the Sapir-Whorf theory, and it's named after two linguists, Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf. While neither of these men stated this theory themselves, they and many linguists before and after them have been debating it. Nowadays it's broken into two parts, or strengths. The strong version, or linguistic determinism, states that language determines thought, and is essentially saying, if there is not a word for something in a language, speakers of that language simply cannot comprehend its existence. And the weak version, or linguistic relativity, which suggests that language merely influences thought. This is a much vaguer statement, so much easier for people to find examples that fit into this description. So, does language affect the way we think? Communication is the exchange of information. Language is the main way that we do this. If I asked you what this painting is of, you'd say apple, or maybe pom, or manzana. The painter René Magritte is telling us it's not actually an apple, it's a picture of one. It represents one. And it still represents one here. This is what we call an icon, a picture that has a close resemblance to what it represents. But what if we saw it like this? Or this, or this, or this? This is what we call indexes. They're using an image to connote something else. With a little bit of context, an apple can represent a teacher, or sin, or gravity, or health. Now look at this symbol. To someone who reads Mandarin, those squiggly lines mean pear. This is an example of a symbol. It doesn't look like what it means, but it's been agreed upon by enough people for it to be official. In the English writing system, we don't really represent whole concepts using one symbol. We represent sounds. 26 symbols we use every single day, and they can make new sounds when pushed together. A, ap, la, apple. These symbols are combined to form something called an alphabet, from the first two letters in the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta. Most languages use an alphabet, and thousands exist. The one we use for English is called the Latin alphabet, and around 70% of the world uses it. Some languages are phonetic in how they use the alphabet, where nearly every letter is pronounced in the word and pronounced in the same way, e.g. Spanish or Welsh. And some, like English, are not. The letters we use don't represent every sound we make, and sometimes there are crossovers. Notice how in circus and clown, the C symbol makes both a S and a K. English is in fact so weird that you can spell fish, fish. Of course we mostly get by with using a non-phonetic alphabet, but sometimes precision is key. Have you ever looked up a word and noticed those random looking letters underneath? This is actually not random at all. This is a word written in the International Phonetic Alphabet. To make talking and writing about speech sounds easier, the IPA was developed in the 19th century. Its aim is to have one symbol for every sound that exists in every language on the planet. These are the ones we use in English. This may seem overboard, but the IPA is commonly used by speech therapists, actors and singers, and teaching English as a foreign language. For example, what's the most common vowel in English? It's actually the schwa, or the sound you found in zebra, camel, pencil, dinosaur, or cactus. But how do we make these sounds, and what does it mean? All the sounds are made in different parts of the vocal organs. These include the lungs, throat, vocal cords, mouth, tongue, teeth, etc. As we saw earlier, not every language uses the same sounds. English uses 44, Hawaiian only uses 13, and the Tar language spoken in Africa uses over 160. This can make learning new languages really tricky, as you may be learning new sounds. In Japanese, the English L and R don't exist, but are blended into a sound that sounds somewhere in the middle.
So in American English, the R sound is made by placing the back of your tongue against the back of your mouth. The L sound is made by placing the tip of your tongue against your front teeth. Japanese doesn't have either of those sounds, but instead has something in between known as an alveolar tap, where you tap the tip of your tongue against this part known as the alveolar ridge. This makes a R sound.
This lack of distinction makes certain words like rural a nightmare for Japanese speakers. However, it's been proven that babies under around 6 months are much better at differentiating these non-native sounds. As we get stronger and stronger at our native language, these foreign distinctions become much harder to learn. The language we speak has affected our ability to distinguish possible human sounds. If you are learning a new language, it is important to try and learn these differences, as a change in sound can change a word's meaning.
Bitch! Oh, where's your big bitch?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I didn't want it anyway.
Communication without sound doesn't mean there's no language. Sign languages, and there are around 300 in the world, are used predominantly by the deaf community, but has been considered if we can use these non-vocal cord languages to talk to animals. In the early 70s, an experiment was done to see if, by teaching sign to a chimp, it could use grammar. The longest sentence Nim signed was, "Give orange me, give eat orange, me eat orange, give me eat orange, give me you." Maybe not. There are rules about where in words you can make certain sounds. For example, the ng sound you hear at any words in English, such as wrong or running, can't exist at the start of words. If you're really good at knowing rules like this, you could be a crossword expert. Languages are made up of sounds, and despite there being 26 letters, English actually has 44 phonemes. That is, the smallest possible sound a language can make. You can see this difference in the fact that a represents ah and ah. This may not mean anything different. This is a bath or a bath, depending on your accent. But accents do tell us something, often where someone is from. Maybe the same place as you, their race, class, or gender. The UK famously has many accents, and they can be hard to understand if you do not speak that way too.
Right. What did he say?
He said, "How's his edge, huh? He only chopped him down because he couldn't see you no more. What's he under?"
What did he say?
He said an edge is an edge. He only chopped it down because it spoilt his view. What's Reaper moaning about?
People subconsciously stereotype based on accent, and those assumptions aren't always positive. The BBC reported that RP English is said to sound posh and powerful, whereas speakers who speak Cockney English, the accent of working-class Londoners, often experience prejudice. The Birmingham accent fares even worse, which could be the result of TV shows which depicted its residents as slow, lazy and thick. However, if we look at this word, it must always pronounce with a short A, bad. If it's a long A, it's a bard.
That's it.
Thank you. Which of these shapes would you call Kiki? And which one Booba? If you said this way round, you're part of the majority. 95% of people state the spiky shape is Kiki and the soft curvy one is booba. This experiment was first conducted by Georgian psychologist Dmitry Uznadze in a 1924 paper in which he gave 10 people a list of made-up names and shapes to connect them with. This was repeated in 1929 by phonologist Wolfgang Kuhler with 2 shapes, Takete and Maluma, and again repeated with the shapes being named Kiki and Booba in 2001. And the interesting thing? The results were the same across culture. The participants spoke 25 different first languages and used 10 different writing systems. Associating shapes and sounds is similar across language. But does it go further? Is one of these shapes good?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
She gave me a bunch of crap.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!
The plosive consonants, which means when airflow is stopped and released to make a sound, is common in swear words. Ka, pa, ta, and da are commonly found at the end of words alongside fricatives such as s, sh, and f. This isn't just in English. Swear words around the world contain these sounds. The approximate sounds and e are least common in swear words, and they're very common in lullabies. Many foreign languages share meaning in sounds, and although this is not absolute, maybe Chomsky's got a point. Morphology is the study of words, and what builds up words such as roots and affixes. All words are made of morphemes, which is the smaller unit of a word that has any meaning. It cannot be simplified any further. They come in 2 categories, free and bound. Free morphemes have meaning. They can stand alone or be combined with other morphemes to make new words. For example, and bound morphemes have no meaning and cannot stand on their own. Most bound morphemes are something we call an affix. These are the bits that we tack on the front or the end of the word. They are either used to make a grammatical change such as if I, which changes the adjective simple into a verb to simplify, or a lexical change, making the noun morpheme into the plural noun morphemes, or ed, which changes the base verb simplify to a past tense verb, simplified. In English, about 60% of the affixes we use are etymologically derived from ancient Latin or Greek. Just like how once you know the alphabet, you can start spelling words. When you learn the meanings of some morphemes, you can start understanding the meaning of words you've never seen before. It's a bit like being a language detective. Take mono, for example. It comes from Greek monos, meaning only, alone, or singular. It's used as an affix in so many words in English, but here are a few you might know. Just knowing one morpheme helps understanding a huge variety of words, especially in an academic setting. This was because Latin was the predominant language of education up until the late 18th century. Words are included in something we call parts of speech. 2 of the main ones are verbs and nouns. As we just established, using affixes can change a word from one thing to another. But what exactly do these parts of speech mean? A noun is a thing word, like apple. A verb is a doing word, such as eating. Olivia is eating an apple. All sentences have to have a verb in them. Because a verb is an action, someone, something, or somewhere has to be doing or be it. This person or thing is the subject. English is an example of a subject-verb-object language, or SVO. This refers to the order that you must place the parts of speech. The object in this case is the apple. Typically, objects are nouns, pronouns, or noun phrases. Stating sentences in the wrong order is grammatically incorrect. However, sometimes it can be done deliberately to create emphasis. This can be using the passive voice. The apple was eaten, or the apple was eaten by Olivia. This can either be used when we don't know the subject or when we are deliberately hiding the subject. Apple eat Olivia, Olivia apple eat. Saying the sentence out of order sounds somewhat alien. Well, that's exactly what linguist Mark Ockrent decided when he was creating the conlang Klingon for Star Trek. He decided to use the object-verb-subject sentence order, which is very uncommon in natural languages. The word for school in Welsh is the same as the word for ladder, ysgol. Ysgol originates from the Latin schola, like a scholar, and ysgol originates from scala, meaning to scale something. Lexical semantics refers to the literal meaning in words. Language sometimes translates directly, but sometimes languages have slightly different descriptions of things, highlighting them in different ways. In many languages, potatoes are referred to as apples of the earth. This is because apples used to just refer to any round fruit, and potatoes were considered fruits that grew underground. This means for many people, apple is a default fruit. Semantic shift is when a word's meaning changes over time. It can be broadened, narrowed, ameliorated, pejorative. It can have changed through use of technology or a metaphor becoming common. A word can also become less common if the definition feels too forward or sounds too similar to something inappropriate to say. Translating something concrete, such as an apple, is relatively simple. But what if you're trying to get a more complex idea across? Does the word change the meaning?
What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title.
Juliet is saying it doesn't matter what we call something. It can't change its essence. A rose will always be a rose, even if you call it a rose, gulab, bala, or computer. But Romeo isn't just a rose or a basic object. He's a complex character, and who he is depends on whose relationship we're viewing him through. To the Montagues, he's family. To the Capulets, a rival. And words have characteristics too. When we hear a word and think of a thing, we associate that thing with certain characteristics. Could a rose be beautiful or sweet, or deceiving and thorny? Is what you associate with a thing because of language or culture? Would you describe an apple as delicate or macho? To an English speaker, these feel like odd descriptions, but many Romance languages have grammatical gender. That means objects are female or male. To a Spanish speaker, an apple is likely to seem delicate and pretty because to them, apples are feminine. German speakers might think of apples as tough or strong because to them, apples are masculine. This is an example from Lena Boroditsky's 2002 experiment testing native German and Spanish speakers' connotations with opposing gendered objects. She believed that the language you use does affect the way you think.